to go red though, I think, Joe.
Hello everyone, welcome to Power BI Lunch and Learn Season 3, Episode 2. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Unfortunately, we haven't got Alex with us again this week. He's away on other business, and we haven't got our wonderful presenter Ben with us this week. But we have two wonderful sessions for you today, both based around time intelligence and both slightly different as well. So we've got a special guest in Francisco Gutierrez, and we have our presenter Lewis Holmes with point-in-time reporting coming up in part 2. Okay, so a couple of things before we start. I'm just going to share my screen, and I want to start with a couple of announcements because there's a couple of important things that I want to just share with you guys. Okay. Brilliant. So one of the first things, there's been some sort of, today's session is going to be sort of around time intelligence with disconnected tables from Francisco. So he's had some requirements from his organization that he's working for at the moment. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. We'll then have Lewis Holmes with point in time reporting. And then around 1:25 we'll have an announcement for next week's on the episode 3 coming up in a couple of weeks as well, where we've got something special ready for you there. Okay, so another quick announcement that I wanted to make is that you might have seen the free Microsoft exam offer from Microsoft via Microsoft Ignite using the sort of skills challenge. Now this is really good offer that they've put out there, and it's live right now. And the way it works is that you sign up, you get involved in the challenges, and you sort of get involved with Microsoft Ignite. And what they do is reward you with a £150 voucher to go and take a free Microsoft exam to then either get certified in Power BI or a number of other certifications that are available via the Microsoft website as well. So definitely, you know, have a look at that. I know there's a number of guys on the call here that have taken exams recently, but it is important to prepare for these sessions as well. I've done a number of these exams over the last sort of years, and I have failed a couple of times as well. Not the Power BI one, by the way. I passed the Power BI one first time, but excuse me, there was other ones that I had to prepare for. So you do get a free turn or free session to take an exam. Just make sure you guys prepare properly for each of those so you don't waste that sort of opportunity for yourselves there. So the free Microsoft exam via MS Ignite challenge, skills challenge, have a search for it online. If you need the links, we'll share the links with you shortly as well. Okay. Power BI Support has launched some hands-on workshops. So myself, Lewis and Ben have been spending time putting together some workshops, and these are sort of day-long workshops around Power BI, and we've launched 2 of our sessions that we've written, especially based around our experiences within Power BI. We've got an introduction to Power BI that's coming up on the 1st of October, so it's not far away. We've got a few places left for that. And Lewis, our resident, is running an introduction to DAX workshop, which will be coming up in around a month's time towards the end of October. So we've got other sessions coming up soon. We've got a data modeling for Power BI session coming up, hopefully before the end of the year, and then some more advanced Power BI reporting and analytics sessions also coming up. And these are sort of paid sessions available to the general public and available to buy on our website, Power BI Support. So visit Power BI Support/events, and all the details for them are there. Okay. Bring on Francisco. So Francisco Gutierrez, from rainy Malaga to sunny Manchester. Well, obviously that's the wrong way around. I don't know why someone would swap sunny Malaga for rainy Manchester, but he's done it. And he's working in Manchester as a Power BI report developer for first dispute management over there. And he's been given a challenge. He was given a challenge coming into his role as a Power BI developer there. He had some requirements to give him some figures around month to date and quarter to date. Okay. And then someone else said to him, actually, well, you know, I'd like year to date and I'd also like previous year as well. And then someone else said, actually, well, yeah, I also like the previous 12 months as well, you know, worth of data. Okay, well, it seems like a challenge in itself. But now someone else said, actually, well, I need to go back and say, actually, I need to see 12 months data from February, you know, 12 months back from there. And also, I also need to see month to date for February compared to today's date rather than the whole sort of month. So the requirements for this time intelligence solution that he had to put in place just grew and grew and grew. And you know, Francisco, you know, working in Power BI and understanding the requirement from this, from this business, he managed to put a solution in place using, DAX functions and using disconnected tables, which I'm sure he picked up from Greg Deckler last season and from Pavinder Channa, who did time intelligence as well. So taking what he's picked up from the sessions in the previous season, he's applied it to his own organization and he's managed to resolve that. And he's going to show us today exactly how he went on and did that. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to Francisco. We'll give you a bit more information about himself and what he's doing today. So Francisco, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Shep. You're right.
Hey, how are you doing?
Not bad, thank you.
Good, good. Good to have you on the show. Welcome to the show. So can you tell us why you actually swapped Malaga for sunny Manchester?
Well, actually, I don't even know, but yeah, at the beginning was because I wasn't able to speak English, so that was like 5 years ago, and now I like it here, to be honest. Yeah.
Really? Brilliant, brilliant. Well, they haven't got a great football team, unfortunately, but you know, I think the rest of the city is quite good. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to share your screen, we can get you started straight away, and then we can get you on with your presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Francisco Gutierrez. He'll be taking you through disconnected tables, time intelligence with his solution that he's put in place. So, Francisco, it's over to you.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone again for attending to this online event. And my name is Francisco Gutierrez. As Shep said, I work as a Power BI developer. So I started a new role like 2 months ago with a solicitor firm. Basically, they have a huge amount of PPI cases, millions of cases, to be honest. And one of the first requests was about, okay, how many offers we'll receive? And we want to see that like month to date, quarter to date, last 12 months, year to date. But also they wanted to compare, for example, if they wanted to check May, for example, to the day of today. So today is the 23rd of September, so they want to check May according to the 23rd of May. So what I'll do, I'll give you an example. If I go to the Power BI service, sorry. So basically they wanted something where they can see all the KPIs together. And if they are clicking here, all the KPIs will change. And the current day is telling if we want, for example, month today in August, according to the 23rd that is today. So right now we are in the last 12 months from the point of August, but we could change that, for example, to May. I will work the last 12 months from May. But if I click here, it will work month to date. Well, right now it's clicking in yes, so that will be the month today of May until the 23rd of May. That makes sense. And if I click in quarter to date here, So basically, I have a couple of bookmarks here. So this will be quarter to date, but for the whole quarter, according to June. Also, I would like to point out that if you put so many KPIs like here, this could slow down the report. So basically, Power BI penalize you if you put many KPIs together. So it's something that you have to take into account, basically the performance. And I'll give you another couple of examples of how you can use the disconnected tables. So basically these two are the disconnected tables, but now I'm gonna give you another example. This could be the top 3 lenders by offers. Basically, it's filtering all the graph by the top 3 lenders by offers received. Well, if I click in 10 and receive payments, it will do the top 10 lenders by receive payments. But today, what we are gonna do is about the previous solution that I showed. So I'm gonna do this part, but only with one KPI. You can see because I have a few KPIs, it's a bit slow now, but I'm gonna work only with one KPI and using these 2 disconnected tables. If I close this and I go to Power BI, I already loaded.
Just before you start, sorry, just minimize the little
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
I already loaded the data just to be quicker. And this will be the FAT table with the offers that we will receive. And we have there like the expected payment, the gross offer, when was logged into the system, when was received, and the organization. Also, I have a link with a date dimension table that I created with Power Query, but you can create this with DAX or even with Excel. And here I have the 2 disconnected tables. So in current day, the only options will be yes and no in the period selection. In period, we have like last 12 months, year to date, month to date, quarter to date. So that's what we are gonna calculate now. And here I have another table that is called key measures that I'm gonna use only to store the measures, but I already have 2 measures that I'm gonna use just to check and test that what I'm doing at the end of the presentation is right. And basically it's gonna tell the minimum and the maximum date that we are using. Now, if we go to the report mode, so first thing I'm gonna do is to insert 2 slicers with the period that we're gonna select and with the, if we select current day or no. So I'll put in this slicer period. If I change the format, so I click in general, change this to horizontal. And now I'm gonna click here in single select. So basically, this is gonna allow only to have a single select. And now if I copy this slice and paste it, I'll put it there and I'll delete period and I'm gonna put the current day. So I would like to point out that when you click in no and yes, this is gonna work only for quarter to date and month to date. So now I'm gonna insert a card that's gonna be like our KPI. I'll put it there. And I'm gonna create the first measure. So the first measure is gonna be the number of offers that we receive in all our period. So this is going to be basically the count of rows. If it's loading, okay. So offers is going to be equal to the count of rows of our fact table that is called matter offers query. So that will be the total of offers that we receive. If I click in offers to insert it to the card, I'll change the format. So I go to data label, display units known, and if I click in offers again and put the comma for the thousands. Also, I'm gonna insert a table just to show the measures that we're gonna calculate. And I'm gonna put here as well the month year. And I'm going to order this descending. I'm gonna put offers in the table as well. So basically, what we want to produce is that when I click here, in last 12 months, this is changing. Or if I click in month to days, this is changing. So to do that, I have to calculate first, for example, the last 12 months. So I create a new measure. And I call this measure last 12 months offers. I use the calculate function. And the expression is offers that we calculated before. And in the filter, I'm going to use the dates in period function. So the dates is going to be din dates date. And the start day basically is going to be the last date. And just to let you know, the last date I have in the din dates table is basically today. And if it refresh automatically. For example, tomorrow will be the date of tomorrow. So din dates date. Number of intervals, I'm gonna take away 365 days basically. I close it and now we have the last 12 months. Also, I would like to say that, for example, now we are in a leap year, so it wouldn't be exactly the last 12 months, but if you want exactly the last 12 months, you have to apply a bit of logic to know when you are in a leap year. But just to simplify, I've done only the last 365 days. Now I'm going to create another measure to make this dynamic. So new measure. So this new measure is going to be called offers by period. So the first thing I need to know is what we have selected here. Do we have selected year today, or we have selected month today, for example? So I create a variable that is called period. So period selected using the selected value function. It's telling me what we have selected there in the period. Period selection period. So we know now what we have selected. So now we are going to return. So now I'm going to use a switch function that's basically an if statement. So when period selected is equal to all, I want to return offers. When it's equal to last 12 months, want to return the last 12 months offers. So these two are measures that we calculated before. And when it is year to date, I'm going to calculate it here using the calculate function, and the expression will be offers, and the filter will be dates year to date. Using the dates, then dates, date. I close this. And basically for the rest, for the quarter to date and month to date, it's gonna be more or less the same, but I have to change something slightly. I'll paste. Okay. And I'm gonna change this to quarter to date. The same here, quarter to date, month to date, and month to date. And if nothing is matching, I want to return error. So with this new measure, basically, I'm gonna make the KPI to be dynamic. So now I'm gonna put this new measure in the card. So I'll change it, and I'm going to put it in the table as well. So now, if I click in last 12 months, this is going to change. So right now, it's calculating the last 12 months from now. But if I insert, for example, a slicer with the month year, so I'll put the slicer here, and I'll put month year. If I click, for example, in July, it will work the last 12 months from July. If I click in year to date, it will be the year to date until July. And if I click in month to date, it will be July, but the whole year. So, and another request I had from the business was, okay, we want to check July until the 23rd of September, because right now it's the 23rd. So basically, if I click here, it should change to the 23rd of July, but it's something that I have to do now. So right now it doesn't work. And the same for the quarter to date, but with the quarter to date, we need to know in which month of the year, or sorry, of the quarter we are. So we are now in September. We will be in the third month of the quarter, if that makes sense, and the 23rd day of this month. So now I'm going to do those measures. So if I click in offers, new measure, and I'm gonna use this just to be quicker, and I'll explain what I'm doing. So basically, this here is exactly the same month to date that we have in the switch statement, but I added this in the filter. So basically, this is month day number has to be smaller or equal to the current day, and the current day is here, the variable that is the day of today, the 23. So that will be the month today according to the current day. And we're gonna do the same, but for the quarter to date. So if I create a new measure, so the logic is a bit more complicated, but is following more or less the same as before. So they say exactly the same quarter to date measure from the switch statement, but adding this. And basically this is telling month of the quarter and day has to be smaller or equal to the current month of the quarter and day. So the current month of the quarter right now, because we are in September, will be the third quarter that we are calculating that there. So which month we are? Month today will be number 9, and we pass it here and it return 3. And for the day, we have the calculation there in current day. The day of today is 23, and after I merge those calculations here. So current month of the quarter, that is 3, and current day is 23, and I pass this variable here. So basically, if we were right now in August, this will be 2 instead of 3. So this will be the quarter to date. And now I'm going to change the offers by period measure to make it dynamic with the yes and no as well. So basically, I'm going to change this measure here. So clicking offers by period. So we need to know now if we have selected yes or no. So following the same process as before, variable, I'm going to call this variable and day selected equal selected value as above, but for the current day. And now I'm going to add here a if statement to know if the new variable that we created is equal to yes or no. So if it is equal to no, we're going to use the same switch statement. And if it is equal to yes, we're gonna use the same switch statement, but I'm going to change it slightly for the quarter to date and month to date. So basically, I'm going to add the measures that we calculated before. So current day, quarter to day offers, and current day, month to day offers. If I press enter, it is loading the measure now. Now we are in July. If I click in yes, this should change to the 23rd of July. So to demonstrate that everything is working, I'm going to add 2 new cards. Copy this card and I'll paste it here as well. I'm gonna put here the maximum date. And the other one I'm gonna put the minimum date. And now if I show you the DAX, it seems a bit scary or complicated, but basically all of this from here is the same switch statement that we used before, but it's looking into the dates, only into the dates. And here I have the variables that this is exactly the same that we did before. And what is doing this is, according to what we select in the disconnected tables, it's looking for the minimum, and the other measure is looking for the maximum. They are exactly the same, but only minimum and maximum. So if I come back here, and I add another slicer just to be able to filter. So just to be able to filter by quarters as well. So I'm going to put their quarter year. So right now we can see if this month today, and yes, it's until the 23rd of July because we selected July. If we click in no, it will be the whole July, you see. But if I unselect, it's gonna be for September, because it's the latest date that we have. And for September, it doesn't matter if we click in no or yes, because basically we don't have more dates in September. But if we go to the quarter to date and we click, for example, in the second quarter of this year, so when we are in yes to current day is until the 23rd of June. But if right now we were in August, this will be a 5 instead of a 6 because August will be the second month of the quarter, and it will be still the 23. And if we want to check, for example, year to date, so right now it's doing year to date only for the selected for this selected quarter. So if we unclick, it will be until now. If we go to last 12 months, just to remember, for these three measures, it doesn't matter if you click in no or yes. So last 12 months, we are missing one day because we didn't take into account if we are in a leap year or not, but that could be fixed easily. And for example, if I go, I don't know, to August, it will work the last 12 months from August. With this, I finish with my presentation. If there is any question, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francisco. That's really interesting how you sort of solved that challenge for us there. So I can see that you had a number of different challenges in terms of date filters and requirements to look at different date periods all within a single report. And it's extraordinary how you sort of just used a couple of DAX measures, and you've used some disconnected tables to fulfill that particular requirement there. Lewis, do we have any questions from the chat from anybody there?
I have a question myself. It's around your year-to-date figures. It seems to me that the year-to-date was calendar year, so it runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. Quite often I will be asked to do similar things, but over a financial year, perhaps 1st of April to the 31st of March. How would you change that to kind of accommodate it?
Yeah, basically, if you want to do that, you have to do a bit of work in the date dimension table. Basically, what you will do there is, if it is over the 1st of April, it will start the financial year. So you basically have to create a column to know in which financial year you are, and from there you have to do a bit of DAX. You wouldn't be able to use the date year to date function. So basically, you have to do everything using DAX.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. So a question that we do have is in terms of performance. You already mentioned performance earlier on. So I guess that's the sort of downfall to creating a solution like this. Is there any way you could have done it so that if you had a bit more time, perhaps to do it, that it was so that it'd be a bit better in terms of performance?
So in terms of performance, basically, if you want to improve the performance, you have to reduce the memory that is using your application. One way, for example, is you have different dimension tables, and they are linking, for example, with text. It's better to link with numeric.
Yeah.
And the other way to improve the performance will be basically to reduce the number of KPIs. To have 18 KPIs in the same solution is actually too much.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Francisco, for that. It was a really intelligent way of solving a real business issue that you had. And so now we're going to move over to Lewis Holmes. So this was Times Intelligence reporting that we were just looking at now. And Lewis is now going to look at something called point in time reporting, which is slightly different in terms of historic data. So if someone asked you, okay, well, how much change in your pocket have you got now? I could say, okay, well, I've got £10.20 in change right now. Okay, but if someone said to you, okay, in February, how much change did you have in your pocket? I'd be like, no, I don't know. So point in time reporting will take you back to that point and tell you exactly how much change you had in your pocket at the time. Whereas time intelligence, the solution that Francisco was looking at, is looking at the status as it is today. So if I was to say, okay, well, where is your change, that you had in February, where is it now? I'd probably say, well, it's probably that book back there that I bought. But you wouldn't be able to tell how much change I had back in time. You'd only be able to see that I've got a book, instead of that change. So that's a slight difference. You actually go back in time and look at a certain point in time in terms of reporting, which Lewis is going to go through and show us now. And you do need a different type of data set. So you do need a lot of historic data and some sort of type 2 data in your data sets or your SQL Server or wherever you might have your data stored. You do need a historic version of your data with preferably sort of date stamps to show us actually what was the point that data changed from one status to another status. Okay, so I'm going to introduce Lewis. Lewis, how are you doing today?
All good here, Shep.
Good.
Good.
Cool. If you'd like to share your screen, and then we can put you live, and then you can explain your solution.
Yes. Are we good with that, Shep?
Yep, you're on screen now. Off you go.
Cool, thank you. Thank you for the introduction as well. You've covered quite a lot of what I was going to cover in my introduction. But yes, for those who haven't been to our talks before, my name's Lewis Holmes. I'm a business intelligence contractor and have been working in the BI area for the past 10 years or so, mainly around the Microsoft stack, so SQL Server and Power BI. Today I'm going to be going over the point-in-time reporting that Sheb was mentioning. And this involves a different type of data set, as Sheb mentioned, and it's often referred to as a type 2 data set. And for those who aren't too familiar with kind of all these different types of data sets and how they work in sort of data warehouse theory, I thought I'd get trusty Wikipedia up and show you the entry. So in Wikipedia, it goes over what type 0, type 1, type 2 and all the different versions are. So it'd be good to get yourself kind of familiar with that. Type 0 essentially means it's just the original. Type 1 is kind of what most database tables operate in. It just saves the current version. And what we're going to be using today is more of a type 2 data set where we will retain the older versions. So I have some examples in SQL Server just to make this really clear, because it's important that we understand this before we jump into Power BI and start creating the measures. So inside SQL Server here, I have some example scripts that will just help illustrate this. So we don't need to worry too much about what's going on with that bit. But the end result is I have a table that describes a sale. So we have a sale ID 1 that goes to customer number 1, product 5. It was ordered on the 2nd of September. It's accepted, £150. And another sale, customer 2, product 10, accepted, £120. And what would normally happen is some system will come along when that's dispatched or delivered, and you'll get an update, and then your table will look like this. One of the orders would just change, and it's changed from accepted to delivered, and we now have a delivery date. which is fine, and that's what we normally load into our Power BI report. But if someone were to ask you the question, when was it shipped, when was the order processed, when was it picked, you wouldn't really have a clue. All you know is, well, it's delivered now, and you don't really have sight of anything else. So this data set here is what Wikipedia is describing in this guide as a type 1. You just overwrite the data that's there. So if something changes, you overwrite it. If you are working in a SQL Server environment, so Microsoft SQL Server, you are lucky enough to have some features out of the box which will allow you to kind of save the history of a table. And inside SQL Server, it's called a temporal table. But other database technologies have similar things, or you could even code up your own solution that would keep the history. But I'm just going to rebuild my table to illustrate this to you. So this is as it was, 2 orders accepted. And then we'll turn on this sort of auditing of it. So that's now turned on. So that's in the background. From now on, SQL Server will just keep a history of it, all the orders if anything changes. So we can now go on to and do an update again. So, okay, something's come along. This item is now delivered. And if you query the table normally, you'll get the current status. But you see now we've got 2 extra columns. So again, so the normal view of this is, okay, what is the data right now? But then we've got these, and these come with the temporal table, and they tell you when that record was valid from and until. So you can see we inserted this sale 1, and that was valid from 12 and 28 seconds. And then I came along shortly afterwards and updated this one, which is good. The way this works behind the scenes is you have the main table, which shows the current, and then an older history table that shows all the archive versions. So in this history, we will have a record for sale 2 when it was in the accepted state. SQL Server gives you some functionality out of the box to kind of query this, and you can use this special syntax I've got highlighted here. And I'll just have to pick exactly the right time, which is not going to work. 12:12, and that was active 28 to 30 seconds. You ask it, so now we're asking the data, what was the data like at 12:12 and 30 seconds? And at that point, orders were just accepted. But then if this ticks over into a minute later, it is now delivered. So that's pretty good. The data's saved, and this functionality in SQL Server will save any change, absolutely anything. And when you roll it on a table like this, depending on the nature of it, you can get an awful lot of records building up in this history table, but you do get everything, so that's pretty good. If we were to load this table inside Power BI, you would only ever get the current version. If you were to load this does contain all the history, but what you kind of want is a combination of the 2. And again, there's a little bit of special syntax, which you can ask it for all the records across both of those tables, and you get everything. So sale ID is no longer unique. In fact, there is no primary key on this as such, because obviously the sales can get into different states and change a lot over time. But you can see the one that in the accepted state was only valid for a few seconds before I did the update to make it delivered. So the way to get this into Power BI would be to use this kind of syntax, and I generally put it inside a view. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. You can just say, create the view with all the sales, and it's got that syntax, and great, you just load this into Power BI. If you are on a SQL Server environment, you need to consider carefully whether you want to use the temporal table function, or perhaps you want to build something of your own. There are a long list of limitations to using temporal tables. And the Microsoft documentation is like all this, which is quite dramatic. For me, the biggest thing is you can't amend these start and end times. So these here kind of, well, strictly speaking you can, but you really shouldn't. You can mess it up dead easily. You can't change these dates from and dates to. So if you imagine a point of sale system is getting records and updating them all the time, and things are changing, but you may only load that into your data warehouse once a day. So these date timestamps will be around when your ETL have ran, not when the actual transaction changed. And if that's a deal breaker for you guys, then you might have to run something slightly different. And for that same reason, I can't use a full up temporal table for this example, because I can't go in and create interesting data with this without having started the task several months ago. So I've created a bit of a fake one, which is what I'm going to load into Power BI, where it just relies on dates. It's not got any times. But again, it's structured in a similar way. We've got a sale that's going to a customer. It goes in the pending state, then it's processing for a while, then it's shipped, and then it's delivered. And then you can see this order was placed on the 1st of January 2019, and then it was eventually delivered on the 3rd of April. In my head, this is like kind of a big company that produces really big items that have quite a long lead time, and then they might need to go in a boat and be shipped halfway around the world. So that kind of makes these dates a bit more realistic, but it is all random. So because of that, this table has 15,000 rows with all the history, but the number of unique sales is a lot less, 3,400. So I'm going to load this data into Power BI now, and I'm going to start creating some metrics that allow us to ask how many were processing at a point in time, how many were delivered, what's the difference month on month between the ones that are outstanding, and those kind of questions which this data allows you to answer. So I'm going to pull up Power BI desktop, which I've got here. I have already loaded in that table I was just querying to you. So come on, not date, sale. So this is my sales table, and we do have like some more interesting like amounts, and we do have the date valid from, valid to. That's exactly as you just saw it. I've also loaded in a date dimension. Again, this is just saved in Sql Server, and I've just created a little folder for metrics. There we go. On the relationships, there isn't any links between the date and the sale tables, and there never will be. We're going to have to do that dynamically when we create the measures. So going to the report view. So as you may have spotted, there's already a metric here for orders. So if I just drag that on, and I'll make it a card, and we can see 3,481. The code is doing a distinct count of the sale ID, and that's the same number we saw in the data set just then. Okay, so we might want to know, okay, how many orders do we have that aren't delivered right now? And because this data set has all the history in it, there's not a really easy way to answer that, because you're going to pick up all the historic stuff that was at some point outstanding, but that is now delivered. So, okay, so to do that, we're going to calculate orders in the ship state right now. And to do that, we are going to calculate the orders measure. We do want a distinct count, but we are going to filter sale table, and we're going to use these valid from and valid to dates. So is it valid from? Okay, so we want the valid from date to be before today. And that is right. But also we want it to be the valid to date to be after today. So we pick up the right record, the one that is actually active right now. So I need to wrap this in an AND clause, because we need to do both of those at the same time. We say the valid from date is smaller than today, and the valid to is going to be after today. We'll close down the AND, close down the filter, close down the calculate. Cool. So now we can, if I expand that a little bit, order ship now. I'll drag that onto here and make this a card. And we can say order ship, so that's not right. Order shipped. Okay, I've not put a filter on the status. So now I'm just getting all the orders that are active right now, which of course is all of them. They are all in some state right now, aren't they? So we'll apply another filter in this calculate. The filter will be, we're going to filter on the status equals to shipped. So there we go. So we have 215 that are shipped in the ship status right now. But you might want to know, okay, that's great for right now, but where were we this time last month? And this is where the data set we've loaded gets really powerful. So I'm going to take a copy of that measure. They call it order shipped last month. And the whole crux of this kind of syntax and this measure structure, it entirely relies on what dates you stick in here. So if you're interested in something 3 years ago, you put in the date that's 3 years ago. If you're interested in something that's yesterday, you put in yesterday's date. For this measure, I want to figure out the same date of last month. So I have some code to do that because this was hard to figure out. So we do have a date table. We've taken 1 month off that date table, and we're picking out the max of that, and we have that in a variable. So we will return the same measure, but instead of looking at it today, we're going to look at it 1 month ago. Okay, we create that. Okay, so now we need to create a copy of this. Put that in there. So, okay, so today we have 215 orders in the ship state, but this time last month it was 226. And this gets really powerful because then you can amend this measure. So instead of looking at today's dates, you can have it pick out the dates we've selected from the calendar. So I'll create a new page for this so you can see. So if I add a table into here, bring in the dates into there, get rid of this hierarchy. Okay, so we have every date from January 2019. We can ask it, okay, how many orders are in the ship state on every one of these dates? So we'll create a new measure, the ships, and we'll call it kind of dynamic because it's based on whatever date context you pass to it. So instead of today's date, we can just ask it for the max of what's in the date table. When we drag it onto this visual, it's going to evaluate it for every single cell. So it doesn't matter if it's min or max, it will just bring back the 22nd or the 23rd or whichever column it's in. We'll grab that, stick that in there. Okay, so then I can drag this one into here. And again, there's a little bit of a performance hit because it has to evaluate it and there's no relationship between the date table. But now you can see this shot came into existence on the 1st of January. That's when it took its first order. So 2 things got into the ship state on the 3rd of January, and then there was kind of a bit of an increase, and it seems to have leveled off. Where this gets really good, actually, is if we now change this, and we're going to take a copy, and we can say orders, just dynamic. We're not interested in the status. We'll just bring through all the orders, and you'll see why in a second. So we're still filtering by whatever date the calendar has selected. Okay, and we can bring in orders dynamic into here. Get rid of that one. So this now isn't limited by any sort of status. It's just the number of orders. So over time that will go up, because more and more will be in the delivered state. But if we put this in I'm going to do an area chart. And again, you see kind of the slope going upwards like that. But we can then bring in the status onto here as the legend. Thinking about it slightly. And we will see kind of the distribution of orders that were in different states on that day. And I think what will be useful here is if you get rid of the delivered, because it's delivered, it's done, you don't care about it. So on the filter, we'll just go order status is everything but delivered. And when this refreshes, now this is getting good. So now you can go back and you can see, okay, on the 21st of July, we have 33 orders pending, 112, processing 176 were shipped but not delivered. And you can see how that's changing over time. So I am conscious of my own time here, being close to past. In my example, I did progress this so we can do the variance between these two, and then we can also check, instead of just shipped, we can see how many were processing or pending, and you can start to see how if you structure your measures in this kind of form, you can ask, okay, I'm interested in what was processing, and then you can say 3 months ago. And then once you have that measure, you can compare it to today, and you can start charting it over time compared to other ones. But for the purposes today, I think I'll leave that there. Do we have any questions, Shep?
Hey, yes, we did have some questions on, again, around performance. So looking at this sort of data, you've got 15,000 rows in here. So if this increased, would this affect performance, and how can you sort of perhaps, improve that?
Yeah, so one approach I've had before is we've had the business have kind of agreed that we're only interested in changes that have happened in the past month. So if it's more than a month old, we don't care. So in that case, you can kind of tune your view or the data you load into Power BI. Remember, that's just a view here. You can kind of tune that to only bring the stuff through that's changed in the past month. So that reduces it down quite significantly. Yeah.
No, that's great. And again, yeah, I'm conscious of time as well. So any questions we can answer and publish those as well. And this solution will be available for the guys to download?
Yes, the PBIX as it is now, I'll save it and we can put it on Power BI support, can't we?
Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks for that, Lewis. And that final solution that you had in place there, and that visual that you had in place was really quite something. And you can see the sort of power of temporal tables and point in time reporting. You can always go back in time to see exactly what was going on at that time and see whether things are improving, things are going worse, why was that happening, and see if you can get some more analysis in and around that sort of data. Okay, so just before we go, just a quick announcement for next session. So I will be presenting next episode, so episode 3, season 3, on the 7th of October. I'll be using Power BI, I'll be accessing fantasy football data, and I'll be web scraping all the fantasy football data from the website, downloading that into Power BI and doing some analysis on that sort of data there, looking at sort of points accrued by each player, what their value is, what the forecast is for those, what teams they're playing next, how many points we expect them to get, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and now we're not just doing that. I'm going to do that for you next session, and also we're going to throw this out to you guys as well. So we're going to create a competition. So I'm going to download this data for you, okay? And then from that data, you're going to we're involving you to create your own Power BI report from that information to see what sort of analysis you guys can get to us as well. So it's quite simple. I'll give you more information on that next week, but just a quick overview of how it's going to work. Competition is going to start next episode. The deadline is going to be 3 weeks after that, so you've got 3 weeks to create your report, send your submissions into us. Okay, the winners will be announced on episode 5 on the 4th of November. We do have a huge prize which will be provided by our season 3 sponsor, Cloud2. And they actually won't tell me what the prize is at the moment, and they're waiting, and we will announce that next session as well. Second prize will be a football shirt provided by Alex. Unfortunately, he isn't here today, but he'll give you more information on that. And you can see the wonderful gentleman here. As you can see, third place will be a Lunch and Learn t-shirt provided by us guys, and you can take that around the world, just like some of these guys have. As you can see, nice beach on the background there. So this is a competition that we're throwing out to you guys with fantasy football data that we're going to launch next week. So make sure you tune in for the next session, in 2 weeks time, 7th of October. We'll show you how to scrape all that data from the Power BI, with Power BI, from all the fantasy football data, and then we're going to create some analysis on top of that. Okay. Hopefully we'll have Ben and Alex next time, but who knows? You'll definitely have me there, and hopefully we'll have Lewis as well, and we'll have another special guest in Carlos Castro. Yes, the unanimous Carlos Castro will be here. He'll be with us. He'll be sharing some of his experience in performance tuning and things he's learned whilst in lockdown. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully see you on the next session. And as always, these sessions are available on our website, powerbisupport.co.uk. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.